and possibly last topic for the night, depending on how long it takes, it will be our Heisman contenders, not including or not limited to Lamar Jackson. And we're going to let Mr. Lynch start it off.
All right, so we are going to talk about candidates. I don't include Lamar Jackson because this is a foregone conclusion that he's going to be the one this year. I think as far as Turner's favorite view on things is the narrative that's been Jackson has been so strong. There's no way anyone else, unless he just out the rest of the season and does absolutely nothing. There's really no reason to invite anyone else to New York for the ceremony because he has it wrapped up. So I'm going to try to find another candidate. We've all chosen our own separate candidates, and I've chosen actually the guy who coming into the season was supposed to win the Heisman, Deshaun Watson, quarterback for Clemson. Look at his stats, his numbers are eerily similar to what they were last year when people were sure that he should have won the Heisman. Goes. His yards are pretty much on par. His completion percentage last year ended up being 67.8. Right now he's at 66.1. Last year he threw for 4,100 yards. This year he's right at 3,000, almost at 3,100. His average yards per attempt were 8.4 last year. This year at 8. He had 35 passing touchdowns to 13 interceptions. This year he has 27 to 13. So his numbers have been pretty much the same as far as passing. I think what people have been enamored with Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson last year and enamored with J.T. Barrett and Braxton Miller and Dell and Tim Tebow and Cam Newton has been the running game and how much he ran. Last year he ran for 1,100 yards and 12 touchdowns. This year he ran a total of 207 times last year. This year we're in week 10. He only ran 99 times. To me, 99 times for 333 yards and only 2 touchdowns, as opposed to 207 times, 1,100 yards and 12 touchdowns last year. Now, he's still picking up yardage when he runs. He's just not running as often. And I think that's been the thing that people look at, because when you hear people talk about Lamar Jackson, they're not talking about him throwing the ball. They're talking about him running. How much when he runs, he looks like Michael Vick, who got cheated out of a Heisman anyway. But John Watson has been, and a big portion of that is people look at, oh, well, for middle opponent as they were last year. When they went head to head, yeah, Deshaun Watson lit up and they won, and he did the game-winning drive to give them the lead and the eventual win. He hasn't looked as good as he did last year. And I think he's fallen into the same trap that a lot of people fall into is once the spotlight comes on you, instead of finding ways to propel you or pick you up, people find things to criticize you and pick you apart on. They're picking him apart on everything. His mechanics are off. Oh, he's not throwing for as many yards. Oh, he's not running as often. Oh, he's not throwing as many touchdowns. He's throwing too many interceptions, even though last year interceptions weren't an issue when it was the exact same as this year. But, I mean, that's just how it goes. Once the spotlight comes on you, you get picked apart. You don't get praised. And I think that's what he's falling into now, because Clemson – as good as a team as they were last year. And if you look at everything they lost, from Shaq Lawson to Kevin Dodd, Mackenzie Alexander to Sharon Peak, Jaron Kearse, they lost so much talent last year that you'd be crazy expect Clemson to be as good as they were last year, or expect Deshaun Watson to be as good as he was last year. But he has been, as far as playing quarterback, throwing the ball from the pocket. He has been as good as he was last year. And I think the explosive plays aren't there that we're used to seeing from him. Plays that made him eat up Nick Saban in Alabama last year, which forced him to kick an onside kick just to win the game or take the momentum in the game, in the championship game last year. I think people aren't seeing that, and that's why they're criticizing him rather than watching him actually play. So for those reasons, I think he should be the Heisman candidate that I'm going to pick. winner.
Purvis, who you got?
Uh, First of all, I'm with you, Lance. Deshaun Watson is playing well, but he'll be compared to what he did last year, so ain't no way he'll win it. So I'm gonna go another route. I think that the Heisman should go to outside of Lamar Jackson. It should go to Jake Browning from Washington. Now, a lot of people don't know much about Jake Browning because he's way off in the West Coast. A lot of people don't watch the West Coast games. But what he is the most efficient passer in college football. And taking away the USC game because it was a horrible game for him, but it's the only bad game he's played all year. Before that game, he was 34 touchdowns with only 3 interceptions. After that game, he's 35-5. Still really good stats, but that one game was his only quarterback rating under 89 for the whole season. His passing rating is actually 189.1 right now. He's only a true sophomore, so even if he doesn't win the Heisman this year, he'll be in the race for it again next year. But the guy is completing 65% of his passes on a team that is averaging 48.3 points a game. He's putting up big-time numbers. He scored touchdowns. His yards, he's at about 2,500 right now. They don't make a lot of yards because they score touchdowns. They have a decent defense, and they're playing Pac-12 teams, so, of course, competition isn't as hard. But what they're doing is they're putting their foot on the pedal, and he's driving the car. He is the leading force. He is the reason why Washington will win the Pac-12 this year, and I think that's why he should be the Heisman candidate outside of Lamar Jackson.
I think that before I get into mine, because I'm going to be short, the thing that both of those guys lack, and Lentz talked about it a little bit, and I'm sure we'll get back to it afterwards, is a rushing presence. These days, to win the Heisman, you got to be doing a whole bunch on a team that's doing really well. It's gotten away from, the guy who is doing the best, looking the best at his position, and gone into the guy who's doing the most is the most exciting, so on and so forth. And like you said, Deshaun Watson isn't as exciting. No one cares about Washington as much as I hate to say it, so that hurts both of them. With that being said, the Heisman's going to go to Lamar Jackson, barring something crazy happening. But the guy that I picked to talk about was Jabrill Peppers. He was the top prospect coming out of high school 3 years ago, I guess, as a defensive back. Played running back and DB in high school. And in college, he's played a lot of linebacker, cornerback, and safety. He returns kicks and punts, and also plays a little bit on offense. He's got 21 rushes on the season for 161 yards. That's 7.7 yards a carry, which isn't a lot of yardage, but the average is really good, especially for a guy who's playing defense. He's got 3 touchdowns on those rushes, 4 receptions for not a whole bunch of yardage. But he's got 4 sacks, which, considering he spends most of his time at safety, is really impressive. 1 forced fumble, and he also returned a fumble on a 2-point conversion for, I guess, which most easily defined as a touchdown, but it didn't get you 6 points because it was a 2-point conversion. Where he is the most impactful is in the return game. He's averaging 24.8 yards per return on kick returns, 17.3 on punts, which both are pretty good. Kick returns don't have the same meaning as they used to, but still being that dynamic has been huge. He's got 1 kick return touchdown. I think the thing that would keep him from being really in that Heisman conversation is the fact that he doesn't have a lot of touchdowns. If you're a defensive player or a turn man who is looking to win the Heisman, you've got to generate points. That's what the Heisman race has really come down to, is how many ways can you generate points. He hasn't done a lot of that, but he's a guy that you have to game plan for literally in every asset of the game. He's not just a guy that you punt or kick away from, because he's also playing all over the field on defense. He's a guy that will also get the ball in his hands on offense. So Jabrill Peppers is a kid that you will see everywhere. Even if you find a way to not kick it to him, you still have to deal with him. And that is what makes him so dangerous. And in an era of college football where you value versatility, you value a guy being able to do a lot of different things. There's no one player who's playing the game who does more than he does, more than he has this season. I think that if he can find a way to get his touchdown numbers up, maybe pick off a few passes. He has no interceptions right now. If he could come out, create a few more turnovers, and put points on the board, he's a guy that would be thoroughly in that number 2 spot for the Heisman behind Lamar Jackson.
Well, I disagree that you have to generate a lot of points. What you really need is a legendary quarterback who had a narrative built against him, and you'll decide to finally give it to a defensive player. That's how you'll win it as a defensive player.
Get out of here.
Yeah, you know I had to
I
go
like where
there.
this is going.
And then Peppers plays for Michigan too, so you know I kind of had to go there.